You're listening to Parents, You've Got This, the expert guide to parenthood.
The complete guide to pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood.
Sending your child off to childcare for the first time is really quite daunting. Having gone through the transition ourselves several times, we know just how you feel. But don't worry, today we have got the expert here to share her top tips and tricks to make sure your transition to childcare is as smooth as possible.
Thank you so much today to our expert guest, Dr. Deirdre Brandner, who is our paediatric psychologist expert. Dee works across a whole range of topics and issues with families and their little ones from when they're really little right up to the age of 18. She is also a frequent guest presenter on various media outlets, so you may recognise her face. We are so lucky to have her as part of the Parents You've Got This expert team. Dee, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I think when we think about childcare, one thing parents don't really realise is how early you need to get your child on those childcare lists.
It seems really daunting, but you actually need to think about that as soon as you fall pregnant. If your intention is to go back to work, within the next year, 2 years, we know that those spots fill up really quickly. So I would suggest, daunting as it might seem, think about it once you're pregnant.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you just don't want to jinx it, but at the same time, you don't want to, miss out. How do you go about choosing the right centre, Dee? What are some of the things that are really important for parents to look at?
I think that use your network. If you've got other friends and family who live in the same area you do, or have children attend childcare centres close to your work, let them give you some advice about what they've found useful. I think word of mouth is really great, but otherwise, do your due diligence. Go and visit the centres. Ask questions like staff ratios, staff turnover. Look at things like facilities and also things like nutrition and communication between parents and staff.
And I think childcare is such a transition for both the parents and the child, especially if you've been together for so long in that, for parental leave times. Do you have any tips around the transition?
Look, I think the idea of preparing early, so it's great to spend some time where your little one can be separate from you, so whether that's with, a friend or a family member, so they can get used to being away from you. The other thing is having good routines, and sometimes if there's going to be an imminent start at childcare, start having your day following like a childcare day, where there's a similar routine.
That's a great tip, Dee. With the transition and actually getting your child in the zone for childcare, do we just do it at the time, or what would the things be that we might put in place? Do we just do it, the first day we drop them off and they're there for 9 hours? Are there any ways that we can actually help to ease the transition beyond looking after their day at home and mirroring things at home?
And look, what you mentioned there, Freya, is really important, because that trust in a situation and a setting needs to come from us and be communicated with our child. So if you've got a young child, we do recommend it's adaptation to a setting and then separation. So for the first couple of weeks for a young child, it's good for you to spend some time in the centre with your child, so that then they begin to trust the setting. And then the next stage is leaving them there, often the trickiest, but our children do cope. And so looking at from that two-step approach.
And if they're a baby, do you tell them that they're going to childcare? Like, how do you communicate with them? Do you have a map or some photos of childcare?
Oh, look, I love what you've said. Using visuals and photos is really important, because as adults, we spend too much time using words, and it's much better to have either photos of the centre, walking past the centre, and not making it something that's just on a busy part of a day. So if you live close by, or even if you don't, drive your car there, pop your little one in the pusher and walk past. If you can see the playground, if you can see the sandpit, and talk about this is childcare and you'll get to go there, and there'll be lots of activities for you to do.
That's so lovely, Dee. That's really true. It's all about the positivity, isn't it? I think they feel so much of what we're feeling. So, yeah, no, that's really lovely. I think one of the things, and it can be, as Christy said, just as hard for us parents as for our little ones to actually separate. Do you have any tips for parents who, they might have been, like Christy said, with their little one non-stop, How do we prepare them for the actual separation part? And what tips and tricks work well in your experience to try and ease that?
I think as a parent, it's checking in on our own emotions. There's a lot of anxiety around this, and that's absolutely normal. Please keep in mind, though, that at one point in your life, you are going to have to be separated from your little one. And to be honest with you, it doesn't get any easier whether it's 6 months, 2 years or 5 years. So starting to play games like hide and seek, getting them used to being away from you and then coming back in. So that's really good for little ones. Having transition items that go from childcare to home, back and forth, and familiarity. Don't have childcare clothes or the childcare bag or the childcare lunchbox. Have that as part of their normal day-to-day. So they begin to trust that this is what I wear to childcare, but it's also what I wear when I go to the park with mum. And it's the same bag that I take. So bridging the gap between home and childcare is super important.
Yeah, that's great advice. I remember role playing with my little ones, with their Dolly, saying, okay, Dolly's now going to go off to childcare, and, oh, I don't want to go to childcare, oh, it's okay, today you're going to be doing these things. Oh, now I'm having a good time, and I sort of found as a parent that really helped with us because we had a lot of, separation anxiety. Can you talk a little bit more about what parents do if their child has extreme separation anxiety?
Look, I think we know that separation anxiety is actually a developmental process. So, we can expect that children will go through this. So please, as a parent, don't feel that, what am I doing to my child if they're upset at drop-off? So the idea is that we need to mirror that we're confident with the situation, that we're confident that childcare is a positive place to be. Don't make statements that, come on, childcare's fun, you're going to have a wonderful time today, because you're forcing your emotions onto them. It's better to say, and you mentioned it before, Christy, when you talk about role playing, focus on the activities. When we go to childcare today, I wonder what the first area in the room you're going to play with is. And so really focusing on the doing rather than the emotions. Keep separation brief. I know we feel that 5 extra hugs and kisses are going to make it easier. It's not. Remember, we can expect they'll be upset when we're leaving, but when we're gone, that's the most important aspect of how your child's coping. So keeping good communication with the staff. How is my child coping 15 minutes after drop-off, half an hour drop-off? That's a much better gauge of their ability to adapt.
Dee, why is it that some children are upset when mum or dad or their carer comes to pick them up?
That is really common, and particularly when they've had busy days, because what happens is most of that big emotion is around decompressing. So it's about they've had a busy day, lots going on, and they don't know what to do with it. It's how they express their emotions through those big feelings. And look, sometimes it's a bit tricky as a parent because we're thinking, I only get to see them tears at drop off, tears at pick up, but we can remind ourselves of had a good experience during the day, and it's actually really normal. Transitions are hard, so having something, a nice routine that you sing a song when you walk back to the car, or you have their favourite Bluey playlist on when you're driving home, or you have a special snack, can be a really lovely way to manage that transition.
And does it take a long time for them to get used to being in a new place, or, what should parents expect?
It's absolutely, children, depending on their age, can take a long time to settle in. So it's very, very normal that between 5 to 6 weeks we're still experiencing distress at drop-off. Sometimes we can have periods where it's all going brilliantly and we're patting ourselves on the back, and then it all falls apart. And that's also really normal, because that can be something that's happening in their thinking, maybe changes at childcare or changes at home that can interrupt, that flow of things going well. So don't be alarmed if there is some regression in their settling into childcare. Very, very normal.
Dee, how do you suggest parents cope with the dreaded childcare illness and sickness? It can feel like such a roundabout. No sooner is the snot dried up than it's back again, or it's gastro, and then of course it seeps through the entire family. What would your tips be on how to deal with that?
I think acknowledging as a parent, it's difficult, but it's expected. And unfortunately, any parent will tell you, and any paediatrician or doctor will tell you that we see the same experience in children's health whenever they're exposed to new environments in close proximity. So, if children haven't done childcare or kindy, they'll still have that experience when they go to school. And often we find that, you would have this experience of children at school bringing home a lovely new virus to spread with your little ones. Yeah. So it is about understanding that, unfortunately, it is a phase we have to navigate, but we do know that in time their immune systems do strengthen. And I promise you, when they get to years 5 and 6, they won't be doing this.
Little ones often go from quite a quiet environment if they're, with a stay-at-home parent, and then they go into a really busy, noisy childcare full of activities. Their day may be really different to what they're used to. Have you got any tips around helping your child adjust?
Making sure that there's a bridge between home and childcare is really helpful. So having sometimes the same toys that are at childcare, finding out what books they're reading at childcare, having the same songs at childcare, so that we can give them a little bit of the childcare busy experience at home, but without overwhelming them. And I think being guided by their interests, asking the educators, what is my child drawn to during the day, and how can I match that at home so that we can help them manage both the home setting and the childcare setting.
Our little ones can be so tired, Dee, after a day at childcare. What strategies can we look to put in place to help them to manage that and to recover ready for the next day?
So I think parents' number one tip, reduce expectation. I know you want to find out what they've been up to, you want to spend lots of time cuddling, but guess what? They need an early bedtime, they need a streamlined dinner, and if you have to have some evenings where there's not a bath or shower, trust me, your child will survive. Better to have a well-rested child for the next day than putting our own needs first, wanting to spend time with them.
That's so true. I used to, know that they're going to be really tired and say, okay, it's just going to write it off. All the emotions from childcare are going to come out onto me, and we're just going to do something that's really quiet at home, opposed to, keeping them in really busy activities, on the days when they weren't at childcare.
It's so important.
Thank you so much, Dee, for sharing your wisdom and expertise today about this transition. I think it's just helping so many parents to feel that much more at ease and relaxed, and to have some strategies up their sleeve as well to know how they can navigate this transition.
Happy to share the information.
You've been listening to the Expert Guide to Parenthood, and never forget, parents, you've got this.
Join a Parents You've Got This masterclass today to be prepared, excited and educated for pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. Visit www.parentsyouvegotthis.com.au and sign up for a masterclass today.